There it goes. Crown of Thoughts. This is Cara Patterson.
Hi.
You can guess it's my sister.
Yep.
The coolest sister. You guys, sisters out there suck.
I'll take that.
Having some coffee. So you came from Phoenix,
Yeah.
and how many countries have you been in?
A bunch. Like Japan, obviously Canada and Mexico, the Philippines, Bangladesh, France, Germany, England, Italy, a bunch of Caribbean islands that are technically all countries.
You can like jump from country to country.
Yeah, so that jumps the number up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Czech Republic, we went there too.
That's awesome. I can't. Like I'm tied to the damn factory. I can't go on vacations like that. Maybe a little more now.
You could go
I got that weird schedule.
take one of your vacation weeks. Don't you get a couple vacation weeks?
I now get like 3 weeks. I think vacation, whatever it is, 120 hours. Yeah.
We'll use one
Yeah,
of those
3 weeks.
weeks and go to another country. With Airbnb, it's really cheap to do it now.
Airbnb is that when you go to someone's house for a hotel?
Kind of.
B&B. We're doing that in Alabama when we go to this music festival. I didn't know what that meant.
Sometimes it's like a room in someone's house, but sometimes it's like a whole house or a whole apartment or a whole condo.
That they just lend out to people.
Yeah. So
Like some,
like maybe you move and you just keep your old house and then you turn it into an Airbnb instead of turning it into regular rental. We thought about doing it for one of ours.
depending where you live, it might make just as much money.
Or more.
Not here. Like, oh, York, Pennsylvania, man. We need to get down there. I bet they have a bunch of them. R&Rs, they're called.
Airbnb.
Air.
Airbnb. So B&B stands for bed and breakfast. Air is just like it's an online thing. Airbnb.
AIR.
Yeah.
Air like. Okay.
Like
I see what you're saying.
air.
Yeah, we're doing that, and the person that has the house, his name is like Lynn or something, and we keep joking around. I think she had a couple tiny requests, and then one of us would be like, I talked to Lynn the other day. I got the inside scoop. So that'll be my first one.
Just don't throw any crazy parties. They don't like it when you do that in their Airbnbs.
No, we're just gonna probably be tired. It's like all day of bands, 3 days in a row, and they're old bands. This is with high school friends, and they're old bands we listened to back. Like we didn't bands you wouldn't think would still be around.
They're all still around.
They are. But yeah, like someone told me Weezer's still making albums. Yeah. I'm like, why?
Counting Crows is still around. But a lot of them, too, kind of got back together, I think, when all their fans were in their 30s, maybe, and could afford to do stuff again.
Yeah, because, well, first of all, they probably had to branch off and live their lives a little. But then we're all at the age where we're nostalgic about everything.
Yeah.
And the world sucks now, and there's too much technology. And we're like, what about when I used to listen to Weezer or whatever? I use them specifically. I don't really. Like I said, I like the Sweater song. I guess that album's not bad. I do listen to Counting Crows now.
That Weezer album, I think, is one of the best albums ever made. But their other ones just aren't at all.
It's not a band I think I would want them to make another album.
No.
Well, like the Counting Crows have a billion of them, and I really just like the one. I got into the other ones, but they don't.
I think they've got 3 that are really good that I like a lot. But yeah, of course, August and Everything After is the one you keep going to because it's so good.
The cat's swatting a magic marker around the floor, anything cylinder shaped, and then she'll put it under the couch, and then
Aw.
freak out thinking someone else did it. And if I move the couch, there's like tons of objects in there.
My cats do that too. They like to play with my hair ties or like little hair clips. And so if I run out of hair ties, I look under the couch.
And there's a bunch of them there. I had beer caps. Look, she's swatting a marker around. Kanga always wants to be the center of attention on the podcast.
I mean, she probably should be.
She's been, oh, there we go, right under the couch. She's been sitting in one of the seats on multiple episodes.
Will she let me pick her up?
Yeah. Well, she don't like being picked up, but you can. That's the one thing she's really not big into. But she needs to make an appearance.
She's
Kanga.
She's chunkier than she used to be.
She won't stop eating, and if I don't feed her, she'll like cry.
Yeah, my cats do that
And
too.
I'm like,
you just
stop
don't feed
it.
her. Eventually she'll learn.
But it's just annoying to the point where I feed her to shut her up.
She's getting really chunky.
I know. She's gonna be like mom and dad's cats always end up. Gigantic. She's actually chilling. She won't do that generally.
She knows I'm a cat.
You're a
person.
cat whisperer. She don't even do that for me. Like she'll cuddle up when I'm trying to sleep and like plop down, but I can't like just sit her on my lap like that.
So we tore down the chicken coop that was in our backyard forever when we were growing up.
I want to show the video to some people that we used to party in the chicken coop. Is the video to where I could put it like on here,
I can.
or is it just on Facebook or something?
I have videos on my phone. I can somehow figure out how to get them to you.
Yeah. Yeah, because I just want to put them up. The
To
death of a coop.
To
or
be
whatever.
to be clear, I did not party in the chicken coop. When
I
he,
did, and it was awesome.
When he said we, he was not referring to me.
No, she don't. Cara don't party. She's been to like 1,000 countries though. I've been to. Well, yeah, I've only been to the fucking Canada and Mexico. And Canada was like a kid. That was my idea.
Really?
Yeah, because mom was like, where do you want to go? Because at the time, I had this idea in my head that I was going to move to Canada when I grew up. I always have those little things I'm working on, ideas. And mom, no one like would answer the question, where are we going for vacation? That everyone's like, oh, I don't know. And I said Canada. So
Did
we
you say
planned.
Niagara Falls? Or did you just
Yeah,
say Canada?
yeah, I said Niagara Falls in Canada.
That was our big vacation when we were kids.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I remember going to Ripley's Believe It or Not
Oh yeah.
museum, and they had the giant alien from the movie Alien, I think actual prop. It's the only thing I remember about that. I think we tried to go to like a non-tourist area up there. Like we did that in Mexico, didn't we?
No.
That was pretty much just tourists.
When we went to Mexico, we went to Rocky Point, which is the tourist destination for people.
I've been telling
Arizona.
everybody, but I remember seeing people with their houses were made out of just random parts.
So the big touristy areas are like with all the resorts and stuff. This is Rocky Point is driving distance from Arizona, so there are super touristy places that you fly to, where cruise ships go to and stuff. But Rocky Point is driving distance from Arizona, and so it's touristy, maybe a little smaller than some of those bigger, well-known places. But
Do you think that attracts a lot of people to make money off the tourists? They kind of flock there. Is it like?
I mean, people who live there obviously are interested.
I'm talking about the houses made out of random stuff. Is that like
Well, because
common,
it's,
or is those people that are poor trying to make money off the
I think
tourists?
that's pretty common in all of Mexico. And so you do see probably more of real Mexico there. You probably see that in other touristy areas. It's just kind of all mixed up together.
Yeah. Then there's probably areas undistinguishable from the states other than the language. Well, a lot of people speak Spanish in this country. It's like pretty common.
Mexico City isn't like that at all. Mexico City is just a modern city. And that's where we're going in December.
You're going there.
Yeah, but it's like lots of tourism. There's lots of tourism there. Like people from Europe. I guess people from Spain like to visit because they can speak the language. But there's a lot of people who can speak English in Mexico City.
I think Spain is like old English for Spanish speaking people. Because I was learning Spanish, because like a ton of people at work speak Spanish. And I'm like, I'm going to learn how to speak it. Like they can speak two languages. That makes me feel dumb. I'm going to learn Spanish. They learned English. I'm going to learn Spanish. And I was learning the kind from Spain, and they're all Puerto Rican, and I'm talking like that, and they're like, I don't even know what you're saying. And the one guy's like, that's how they speak in Spain. You have to look up the different types of Spanish. So I looked up the Puerto Rican style.
Did you take Spanish in high school at all?
Yeah, don't remember any of it.
In high school, I learned at first, the first year, I learned Spanish, and then we got a new Spanish teacher who taught us Mexican Spanish. But there's no reason. I don't think there's any reason for Americans to learn Spanish. I think that's crazy.
I don't think it's relevant.
No.
And those people look at Mexico like they speak some kind of slang, street style. I think even Puerto Ricans do to a degree. Because I've talked to them at work, and they're like, that's kind of how they say it. They're not dissing them. They're just saying they speak more of a slang version of Spanish.
But it isn't. It's just
different.
It's just different. People like to throw the word slang around, but if you use a word regularly and it's accepted in your culture, it's not really slang. It's just a word.
Yeah, slang's like a made-up word that you use in place of something. But then every time, it's like, does the dictionary get to decide if what you're using is a word? It's a book.
No, but do you know how dictionaries are created?
Mm-mm.
So, it's not really the dictionary dictating stuff to you. It's people researching what is common usage and what is commonly accepted. Like they have all kinds of people and experts voting on whether a word is accepted in common usage. And this is, I don't know if this is Webster's, this is at least one specific dictionary. And then they compile that information to start adding new words. It's more of look at the language that's actually being used and then describe it.
And it's like statistical analysis almost.
I don't know exactly.
Or like.
But there are kind of two approaches. There's prescriptive and descriptive when it comes to grammar and stuff. So prescriptive is when you have the rules and you make people follow them. Descriptive is you're constantly changing the rules based on what people are actually doing. And that's what linguists actually do that. So if you get into like reading linguistics,
what's that mean?
Books.
Linguistics.
It's like people who study language as a living, like and scientifically or something.
How words come to be, and they would probably know a lot of different languages, these people.
Yes. So
I would assume, unless they're like a really shitty linguist.
So, do you know who Steven Pinker is? He's a linguist.
I know he's on Jordan Peterson's thing. I probably listened to him.
Yeah, so he's probably been on Joe Rogan and probably on Jordan Peterson, but he's a linguist. But he does other stuff too, but if you read his books about writing or language, you can see the linguistics stuff. But pretty much all linguistics are descriptive. They're describing usage. And so that's how I became, reading those linguistics books is how I became less of a grammar Nazi.
Yeah, because you're just kind of like putting your feet in the ground, digging your heels in, and being like, "This, the language doesn't change."
The
Like that's
language
kind of
changes
what a
all the
grammar
time.
Nazi is.
Yeah, but the thing is that language changes all the time. It's changing every day, always.
Every second.
There's no like this is the pure English or this is the pure whatever because it's changing constantly every day, all the time. It's always in a state of change.
And like to even try to put it to something specific, it works for a period of time. What is that noise, the cat? It works for a period of time, and then it's like we got to update it.
It's not like rules. The rules are not important at all.
I think it's more for people that write like English, people that write stories and stuff.
Yeah. So, is it raining?
I
No.
don't know.
So, and this is what I learned from Steven Pinker. So the language is always changing, but and it's hard. Like there's a lot of stuff where it's like, is this the right way to say this or not? And it can be like kind of a toss up. But when you're writing for like a company or an organization or even a book, you have to have a level of consistency within the book itself. Like you don't want to be spelling something three different ways in the same book. And you do want to follow what is generally accepted as the proper grammar rules.
So you don't sound retarded.
So you don't sound dumb. Yeah, basically. And so you still follow a set of rules, but understanding that is not saying those are the rules for English. That's just saying those are the rules that our organization follows, so we keep everything consistent.
Because you're writing a story, you can't. It's like if you're playing a sport, there's rules
Uh-huh.
that you have to follow. If you're writing a story, there is too. They're obviously they're not so strict, but I'm. I mean, when I say I read books, it takes me forever. But I like people that use lots of big, complicated words so that you know, and then if you listen to people like that a lot, you start just talking and saying like educated sounding shit. People are like, that guy's smart. It's like, yeah, I listen obsessively to various lectures of other people that are smart.
In my line of work, I'm always trying to write things more simply and less fewer big words. But
Oh yeah, because you would. This is all you write for a living.
I do. So like
You're a
what I was just
contractor, a contract writer.
yeah. So what I was just saying, there's a there are different style guides you can follow. Like I follow with most of my stuff, I follow Chicago Manual of Style, and so it's like if there's a rule, a grammar rule that could, you know, it's like which way is the right way to do this. I just follow whatever Chicago Manual says to do it. So then there's just a consistency through all the writing that I do.
And there's other manuals.
Yeah.
Is that like the MSD or whatever it's called for psychology? I'm not even saying it right. All right. Anyway.
Well, I guess because everyone in the profession is consulting it and doing it the same
and
way.
it changes every single year.
Yeah. But there's AP style, which stands for Associated Press, and that's usually news organizations will use AP style. And some other people will too. AP style does not use the serial comma, which is that's a big controversial point among writers.
Is that when you?
The Oxford comma.
Is that when you say like, I had my socks, shoes, hat, shirt, and sunglasses, and you put a comma
before the
with
and.
each one of them? Oh, with the and. It's the
Just
the
does
and
the
one.
and replace the comma, or is the comma still there?
I go through that.
I leave the comma.
I go through that in my head, and I use the comma.
Yeah, I use
because there's still another thing.
Mm-hmm.
The and just means it's the last thing. It's still another thing.
There you go.
I just rationalized.
You're pro serial comma. That would be Chicago Manual style.
You don't write stories. You write like just whatever. It's the cat. That's what the noise is. Playing with the blinds.
I write corporate things for companies.
I always thought, because you told me once, I couldn't understand your job, and you told me you were making like a safety video for a factory or something. And for years I told, is that even not that's true?
No, I know what you're talking
And
about.
for years I'd tell people, oh, she writes like, those things they make us do? She writes those. I have no idea what your job
Do you
was.
watch safety videos? Or do you do online things? Like little training courses on the computer? That's what I
Well,
write.
they just give us a piece of paper.
Yeah.
We have these safety things every now and then, and they're so easy. There's a booklet, but you don't have to look at it because the questions are pretty standard. There's like the one question where they're trying to trick you and you know it, and the rest are all, it's like they're all true.
Yeah,
One's false.
I write those things.
Those quizzes and stuff.
Yeah.
And the booklets.
No, I write online training courses. So if you were to take a little training course on the computer at work, I write that stuff. But I do other stuff too.
It's just hard to, because I was looking at, I was sick of my job. Well, I had a pinched nerve and I could barely do anything at my job. I'm like, I need a new career. And I found this, it said this thing about writing, and I'm like, I'm creative. And I looked at it. Freelance writing. Is that what it is?
That's what I do.
And I looked it up and I was like, no, I could not do that at all. That's like requires order
Yes.
and
You have to
it's
be very
it's not
disciplined.
it's not writing stories.
No. It's because probably what you looked at was writing articles for websites, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. And I'm
So
like,
you have to try to make you have to write them in a way that the search engine that Google will pick them up, but also not in a way where you're making it sound like you're just trying to do that.
so you're not just writing a whole bunch of like random words.
No, you're researching like
to-
actual topics and then writing like a helpful article about it so people can use it to get help on something, but also the goal of it is to put the right words and stuff in there so that Google will find it when people Google that topic. That's a lot of what freelance writers do. I don't really do that.
Because
I do some of it.
you use certain. A lot of people that do music or whatever will put a video up and then just put a whole bunch of like red or not red flag, a whole bunch of words. So when you search, it'll just pop up. You have to do that strategically, like throughout the thing.
Basically.
You have, how many guns do you have? Didn't you say you have a bunch of guns now?
I personally own, well, I mean, technically my husband and I own them all together, but I have one gun, and it's a revolver that's that long. It's very cute.
What is it, like a 22?
Yes. It's tiny, and it's just for fun. My husband has several guns. I don't actually know how many.
I got three, but I got one that really is usable. I don't even really shoot that one anymore. It's funny because I bought that gun because I broke up with what's her name and I was all depressed and I was like, I need some new hobbies to keep myself interested. So I bought this 9mm gun and people were like, are you okay, man?
You went through a bad breakthrough. I remember that.
Like,
You went through a bad breakthrough.
I needed
Bought a
some
gun.
hobbies. That's what.
And I was like, is there something you need to talk about?
Yeah, because it was too expensive to go to the range, so I had to find people who have big yards and just shoot random trees and shit.
In Phoenix, you can drive north, and there's like public land everywhere, and you can just drive up there and shoot on public land.
That's cool.
You just kind of park your car on the side of the road and go back into the desert.
Because it's probably more relaxed over there.
If you visit, we'll
More
go shoot in
land.
the desert. The problem is
Like Hunter S. Thompson style.
I've never read Hunter S. Thompson.
He was crazy, dude. He
Surprisingly.
just shoot guns off.
Oh.
Remember we walked up on that big, like a mountain thing in the desert. They don't really have mountains.
We have lots
so
of
to speak.
mountains.
Is it
We
very
weren't-
mountain? I think of a desert. I think flat.
Phoenix is a valley and it's surrounded by mountains all around. But we don't.
And was that where we went?
We didn't go to like the big mountains. I forget where we went.
No, it wasn't
But there are big mountains.
stressful or anything.
They're just
like
a little
that.
farther away.
I always wanted to move somewhere else. Like you grow.
You
I
always
don't
told
know
me
that
you
I
would
really.
never move.
Well, I don't know that I really like literally want to, but there's a part of me that's like, I guess it's like, I feel like it'd be brave to like move across the country because like who knows what'll happen. I won't know anyone. You know, it'll be all a whole new life. That's the attraction I think in the back of my head. It's like I can start all over again. I don't know if that's what happens, but I've always been here. I haven't moved more than 20 minutes from where I grew up. I don't care. Like I like it. Like you were saying, I probably not ever move, but like Utah. Like what if I just moved to Utah and just start over? Wake up every day, you don't know anybody.
Hmm.
You don't have any kind of no one thinks any kind of thing about you. You just approach everyone completely blank slate and like that's really appealing to me, that concept.
It's doable if you ever want to do it.
Go to Utah. Yeah, because
Utah is expensive.
I think a lot of times I feel stuck in certain situations, and it's just simply the fact that I'm too chicken shit to really do something else. You know, nothing's stopping me from moving to Utah or
Maybe take
Phoenix or whatever.
maybe take a vacation
They
to
got
another country
jobs.
first.
They got
Baby
jobs there.
steps.
Oh, to see what it's like to be completely out of your.
No, just to start doing more things.
Is it like because when you go to other countries and they have different cultures, does it kind of give you like an out of body experience or like a I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like everything could like certain things are so different the way those people grow up. They never
Um,
even think of certain concepts we do.
it depends where you go. Like if you go to Europe, no, it just
It's the same.
it feels pretty similar. I mean, you can tell the culture is different in some ways, but it's not like
They eat beans for breakfast.
in England.
England.
I think that's pretty good. I would eat beans for breakfast. No, in Asia they eat rice for breakfast. They eat rice out all the time.
It's cheap.
In the Philippines, it's like a breakfast would be like eggs with rice. Their McDonald's in the Philippines, McDonald's serves sides of rice with things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun thing. Go to McDonald's in any country you visit and see what's different.
Because who was telling me that beer at McDonald's?
Yeah, in
Was
England,
that was
we got a beer at McDonald's. Just
McDonald's beer. I bet it's the worst beer in the world. Like, is it sponsored by a company? Like they ship
don't
this
know.
beer? Like they have Coca Cola?
Yeah, I would
If it
assume
was just McDonald's brand beer,
like McDonald's. I don't know. They have good
I'd
coffee.
be like, no thanks. Bro. Other people got. Do you think they have good coffee?
I love McDonald's coffee. I'm not a snob about coffee, but McDonald's is better than like other fast food restaurants and like
The
gas
coffee.
stations and stuff. They actually have. I love it.
Taco Bell has good coffee, but they only serve it for a tiny little window of time.
Why would
They started breakfast. They have the
Oh.
best breakfast of any fast food place. That's not saying a whole lot, but
I like a McDonald's breakfast sandwich? I will say. I tried to get one today, but they were already done serving breakfast.
yeah, because I won't eat anything from there except for breakfast stuff.
Same
I
here.
worked there before.
Well, no, I will
It's
eat
like
stuff there.
nasty. It's nasty enough, but when you've worked there, even though it was how long ago?
Well, I worked at Wendy's for years, and it was always fine. I was not grossed out by it.
I worked at Wendy's too. It wasn't that bad.
Really? So McDonald's
Yeah,
was
McDonald's is just disgusting. It's just gross.
I also worked at Taco Bell, and I still eat Taco Bell. So I had an illustrious fast food career early in my life.
Yeah, I did Wendy's and McDonald's.
Did you work at my Wendy's with me?
Yeah, you got me the job.
Oh, that makes sense.
You started my whole career
In fast food.
of my life. No, I can't say that because I worked at the Carnival,
Oh yeah.
Majestic Midways. I ran the fun house.
Because you had to do something weird.
No, mom got.
I'm kidding. It just turned out to be the weirdest job.
She's like, I got you this job at this carnival. I'm like, I didn't ask to get a job. It's like, well, you're 15, you're getting a job, which is actually, at the time, I was like, bullshit. But now I know what they were trying to do, and it was really good for me because if I had anything in life, it's good work ethic,
Yeah,
which led me to survive, basically.
It made me get a job when I turned 16.
Oh, you got
But
an
I don't
extra
think
year.
I don't think people were really hiring 15-year-olds when I was first getting a job because I remember
No, it must have been that
that was like a
carnival.
new trend. Yeah. Well, I think later on McDonald's was hiring like 14 and 15-year-olds for limited hours, but I don't think that was really a thing when I was a kid. But they made me get a job, and Mom is the one who said we're gonna go to Wendy's. We're gonna pull in here, and you're gonna fill out an application. I did not want to. And then I worked there all through high school, and then I went to college. Did you know I worked at Wendy's in Indiana during college?
Yeah.
I was like, I already know everything.
And how long were you at the potato chip factory? That was like your least favorite thing, was it?
I did that one summer, and it paid way better than Wendy's. And the next summer, I came back and went back to Wendy's. It was so bad.
That's the type of stuff well, I don't know. I never did that. But I've done those style of jobs my whole life. Factories. What was it? Was there machines or did you just bag up chips?
It wasn't. It doesn't sound like it was. I wasn't like running a machine like you do. I was just. I don't remember all of them, but like there was one where the tubs of pretzels like this, and one of the jobs was they would come out on this in this line, and the machine would put the lids on but not tight enough, and I would tighten them. Each one that came by, I would tighten the lid, and then there's something where like I would maybe fold up a box and put things in a box, or it was very monotonous. And then every hour you would switch machines because of how boring everything was. So every hour you would just like move to the next machine.
Well, what's that called when you try to keep your employees from getting arthritis and stuff?
Oh, maybe that's also what it was for.
Ergonomics. It's called
Yeah.
ergonomics. You switch your employees around like that. You think of them like pieces of machinery. They're gonna go bad if you keep a person on the same thing. Like if you kept twisting those lids, your wrist would get fucked up. There's a science behind
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought it
treating your
was.
employees like machines.
Well, it's good. It's
No,
good.
it's not bad. I just think it's
It would be
funny.
worse to have you do the same thing. I thought they were just trying to keep us less bored.
Probably the same. Probably that too.
No, they were probably more worried about like workman's comp
Yeah.
claims.
Yeah, ergonomics is like it's huge with Harley Davidson because that's the way I worked there, and it's like you think it's gonna be the coolest job in the world. I'm gonna make motorcycles, man, and it's dumb. Like the torque wrench has a little light that blinks when it's done torquing. It's like a monkey could do this job, and it's boring. You do like one little task, and then the bike slides on this magnet strip, and it comes up to you, and you like do something, and then it goes to the next person, and you
Yeah,
switch every hour of the same thing. Actually,
that's what the
every
pretzel
hour
factory
you
was
switch
like.
jobs.
And that job was helpful. Well, I was already motivated, but John also did some sort of factory job where he was just putting a piece into a machine and it would stamp it, and then you would put it in a bucket, and he just did that all day.
And that was like your guy's motivation to
That
not
was
do that for the rest of your life.
That was definitely his motivation. Like, I don't want to do this.
I did stuff like that too, and then I don't know. But then I found similar jobs you could get with that same experience that weren't monotonous. Like what I do now, different stuff happens constantly every day,
Yeah.
and I have to troubleshoot, do a bunch of annoying shit. But it's not the same. I'm not, you know,
Yeah.
not screwing lids onto a pretzel. I'm making plastic bottles. I had this conversation with someone. We were talking about the environment, and I was like, "Well, I don't like a lot of these environmentalist groups because they hate people." And we just kept talking, And I'm like, but there's one thing we can all agree on, I think, is that the plastic is a problem. There's literally an island twice the size of Texas in the ocean. It's like that's a problem. I don't care what you believe in, because climate change and whatnot. I think there's a lot of gray area and whatever, a conversation to be had. But when you got an island of plastic in the ocean, and then we keep talking, and then eventually it came up what I do for a living.
You make
And
plastic
I'm like,
bottles.
I'm complaining about the plastic island, and I can pump out 26,000 plastic bottles an hour at my job. And then I pause and I'm like, oh, I haven't thought of that yet.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Do I need to
switch careers.
consider what?
They pay me good. And then I was like, well, if I don't do it, someone else would. And he's like, yeah, that's not a good argument. It's like that's
like
what everyone
that's
says.
like the classic bad argument.
Yeah.
That's what you use as an example.
When you're out of material to defend yourself, you're like, whoa, someone else will do it. It's like, let them then. Yeah. That shit.
So we talked about travel and linguistics, two of my hobbies.
But do you study other cultures in a way? Not study, but like that's
I like
something you would. I do other people's cultures for a living. No, that's just like, are you interested in that?
Yeah, I like to read a lot, and I like to read like a lot of history and stuff about other parts of the world.
And then you can see like what we focus on being different than like other people.
Well, what I'm reading about now is the Balkan area in Europe and all the wars and violence there. It's not as much about the culture.
Balkan area.
Balkan, like Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, Romania, Bulgaria. It's like Southeast Europe. So you've got Western Europe with Germany and England and all the stuff we think of as Europe. But then down and over a little bit closer to Russia, there's all these countries that a lot of them are generally like less wealthy than the Western European countries, and that area has kind of been called the Balkans. There's controversy over calling it that, but it's what everyone calls it.
And there's a lot of violence.
There's a lot of violence in the history of the whole world. So I think I'm just reading about that portion of the world's history.
Well, right now, isn't there? I heard something like Serbia is like a horrifying place to be, where they're. In my head, the way people were talking about it, I'm imagining people being tortured constantly.
Well, when we were kids, there was a country called Yugoslavia, and that was Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, and some other countries. And those countries had a lot of conflict with each other and with the countries around them. And I'm actually, in the book I'm reading, I just got to where Tito is the leader of Yugoslavia. And he was communist leader. So Yugoslavia was communist at this point in history, which was 19 something or other, like after the World War II. And so I know at some point there's our wars in those countries, and then Yugoslavia breaks up, but I'm not there yet in the book. And I was like young when that stuff happened, so I don't remember any of it.
And
but I don't know what it's like now, but John used to work with someone who's from Bosnia, and I think you can go visit. Like, this is the next thing on my list is I want to go to Bosnia and Croatia.
Croatia.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's the one.
And Croatia is like a country I don't think I've ever heard of.
Or Serbia. They're all like together. They're all in one area. But I want to go to this city called Sarajevo, which is where the thing that started World War I was a Serbian person in Bosnia, in this town called Sarajevo, killed the heir to the throne of the Austria-Hungary who kind of controlled Bosnia. It's like complicated, and I never understood it. I understood World War One started when Archduke Franz Ferdinand was murdered. But I just read this book. I just read all the stuff leading up to that, and I finally understand why that created a war. But it's a little complicated to explain. But I love that kind of stuff. I love reading about something and then finally grasping, oh, this is a thing I've heard about in my life, but this is what was actually going on in the different areas
Yeah,
that led to this.
like the classic one as a kid. It's like Hitler was evil and World War II happened, and it's like okay,
Mm-hmm.
but how?
Right.
Like, how did that happen? Because a lot of people apparently were evil. If they're, you know what I mean? He didn't do it alone. And so, how did he get people to think certain things, and what actually was happening that made people that? Yeah, what you're saying.
Another book I'm reading right now is called In the Garden of Beasts, I think, and it's about the American ambassador to Germany.
Ambassador,
Ambassador, like every country has an ambassador that goes to every other country.
like that speaks for them.
Yeah, basically. So you'll have a consulate, which is like an office. It's like there's an American consulate in Germany, and then some American people go work there, and they kind of speak for the government, and they try to like get to know people and high up people and make good impressions and that kind of stuff.
Never knew that. So
Like if you're
there's
in
like
another
people
country,
from other countries that have little offices here,
yeah,
and they
from all over. But like if you're traveling in another country and you lose your passport, you'll go to the embassy. Oh, I said consulate. Embassy, like the embassy is what it's called. You'll find an American embassy that's closest, and you'll go there and try to work with them to get a new passport or something. So it's like a thing if you're traveling and in trouble.
so it's not like you don't exist and you're basically screwed.
I
You
mean,
can go to them and be like,
it depends.
depends what country.
It depends what country, and it depends if you're doing something dumb. Um, but yeah, like if you get kidnapped in another country, the embassy will probably try to work with them to get you free, that kind of thing. But
What about Turkey? Because I watched whatever that famous movie is, where the guy gets stuck in the Turkish prison.
I never watch movies, so I probably don't know.
But is that country? I guess you don't know a lot about Turkey.
Do we have an embassy in Turkey? Probably.
But it's for that, like, if you get thrown into some other country's prison, you have no rights. No one's gonna speak for your behalf.
Yeah.
Or if you just lose your passport and you can't get home.
I mean, because
That's probably more realistic.
I was just trying to think of what's an example of like what a normal person might need to know about an embassy for. And usually it doesn't affect you at all. But if you were in another country, you're having trouble getting back to your country for some reason or other, you could go to the embassy and.
That's their primary function, or do they like talk about trade and stuff with? Yeah, I was gonna use that word diplomat, but I feel uneducated when I talk to you sometimes.
So this book is about basically a diplomat to Germany during when Hitler's power is like he's like chancellor, but he's not like the ruler over all of Germany yet in the book. But there are all these rumors about stuff happening with Jews, but like a lot of people don't really believe it. They're like, that doesn't really seem like it could be happening. And he is going to be all like neutral and open-minded. But like he didn't realize that the president had asked like 6 or 7 other people to be the ambassador to Germany, and they all refused, and that's the only reason this guy's there.
Hitler?
No, this guy named, I forget his first name, his last name is Dodd, but he was the American ambassador to Germany while Hitler was building up his power.
And like everyone else was like,
so the president, the president asked like 7 other people to be the ambassador to Germany. They all said no, and they asked this guy, and he was like honored, and then later found out, oh, no one wants this job because Hitler's crazy. But everyone thought, well, Hitler's not going to last. This guy's nuts. But I haven't read. Yeah, I have the same thing. Like I don't totally understand what was happening. I mean, I know some of it. Like Germany was in a bad state, and Hitler helped to make it more economically successful. And like, everyone hated Germany after World War One, you know,
I
they
know
kind of
nothing about World War One. That's the one.
they were
It's
an
like when you
aggressor
have.
there too.
It's like when you got a rock band's album and you're like, they made a first one. I just
I just
never
never
heard
heard
it,
it.
man.
Exactly.
I want to know. Like, I want to get into it. World War One. It's just like
I just started learning more about like what actually happened in this war. Germany was pretty aggressive in trying to take. Well, World War One was like everybody's still trying to take land. Like that's not a. It's a thing still in some countries, but you don't have like the big world powers. Well, you don't have the Western powers.
they were like duking it out over territory and
Yeah, they wanted these different areas in the Balkans. Like,
oh, we're back to the Balkans.
well, for World War One.
Is that how many countries are
But then
in World War
Germany,
One? Oh, that's what you were
the
saying.
world.
The whole world.
Well, I mean, lots of it. The Balkan area has tons of little countries in it, and they're all involved. Greece, Albania, Macedonia. Like, there's a bunch of little countries in there. Well, and then Romania,
And
Bulgaria.
and they're just like drawing lines in the sand, or what's?
Well,
It's complicated, I
it's like
guess.
no. So the basic thing is the Ottoman Empire. That's like Turkey, but they conquered. They are like down here, and they conquered a bunch of the Balkan area. Then the other big dynasty was um, Aust- the Austro-Hungarian dynasty, which for some reason Austria and Hungary were like together. I don't understand that. I haven't read that part in history, but they have like they're like working together like one country, but they're still two different countries, but they have like an empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and they're kind of coming down from up here, and there's like tension, like they both want all this land. Well, then the Turkish Empire or the Ottoman Empire starts getting weaker and weaker, and this one starts getting stronger and stronger, and this one takes Bosnia, and that's kind of what starts the wars because they're not supposed to take Bosnia. They just decide we're going to go in and occupy Bosnia. We're going to take it, and then Serbia thinks Bosnia belongs to them. They're like, no, that's our country. We're planning to take that eventually. And then so Serbia.
Bosnia was just kind of in shambles, and people are like, well, we're gonna snatch this up, or they have a bunch of resources.
So Serbia kind of thinks this whole area should just be Serbia. It later becomes Yugoslavia, and there's tension around that. Like,
Is Serbia still there?
yeah,
Is it so it disappeared and became Yugoslavia?
this whole area right here
Or
on the
is
map.
Yugoslavia not a country but a region?
Yugoslavia was a country, and then it broke up, and it's no
Oh,
longer a country.
okay. That's a weird thought. I guess we almost did that in this country. Guess it's not a weird thought.
Yeah,
And these were earlier incarnations of those countries anyway.
yeah. It's interesting and complicated when you start reading about it. But
And
it's not like today. Like you can just go vacation in these countries. It's not like
well, I heard
crazy like
someone
that.
talking about. He's like, war is not what you're exactly thinking. Like, there could be someone like dropping bombs and like across the city, some dude's drinking a beer, watching the game in a bar. Like, I heard this guy describing this stuff. He's like, it's not like there's like caution tape and you're not allowed to go outside. It's like you're still living your life, and not
Yeah.
everybody's got a gun. Like, there's actual citizens.
So in the later war that I haven't gotten to yet in my book, but I know a little about this town, this city called Sarajevo. It's Bosnian, and there's a lot of Serbs in Bosnia, and I don't really understand how it all starts, but there's Serbia is trying to take Bosnia. They want it. And at some point, Sarajevo, the city, it's the same city where that guy was murdered that started World War One. They get besieged. So like the Serbians are in the mountains all around and just like have them trapped, and they're like shooting down from the mountains. And there's actually this street that they call Sniper Alley, and like they're just living their lives down there trying to do stuff, and then like people just getting killed by the Serbians. And I don't know how long that lasts. And they're not all like Serbians from Serbia. They're like there's a bunch of them are just like Serbians who live in Bosnia. And it's this weird, crazy thing because they're all kind of the same ethnicity. So it's kind of like I've been trying to figure out how that area, the Bosnians, the Serbs, and the Croatians, why there seems to be like violence and hatred. It's not a racial thing if they're all pretty much the same ethnicity. It could be a religious thing because there's like 3 main religions, but it seems more like a political. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Territorial,
Yeah, like
cultural,
yeah,
maybe,
maybe.
or maybe
But
just all comes to money.
it goes way back in history, so it's like you have to read way back to try to figure out why are these people who all look alike and all seem. I guess they seem similar to us, but
Well, maybe a bunch of stuff happened like that's complicated. Like,
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
right?
That's why I'm reading this.
Like
giant
right now,
book
we
about
all
it.
hate each other, and for no reason really. It's like, you know, we it'll probably get better. You just, people gotta talk to each other. But you're trying to figure all that out, and that's are we at the? Is that what started World War One, or are we talking
I
about
don't.
something separate? Or that's what you're trying to figure out?
That's one of the things that started World War One. But the book I'm reading is only about that region, so I don't know. Like, I'd have to read a book that covered the whole time period leading up to World War One. This like kind of glosses over anything that happens in Western Europe, which is probably also important.
I don't think of that as Europe.
What?
The countries you just named, Serbia,
Yeah,
and Bosnia.
They're all Europe. They're all Europe.
I
Don't look
that.
down on the
So
little
what is
Balkan
what
countries.
is?
They're also cheaper to.
What are you, some kind of Balkan?
They're also like cheaper to travel in, although they're kind of farther away, so they might be more expensive to get to. I don't know. To look into that.
And when they say UK, what does that all encompass?
I don't really understand.
'Cause I think that's
It's
confusing
England,
to me.
Ireland. Is Ireland its own country?
I don't know. That's kind of
Northern
what I'm
Ireland?
asking. I don't know. Is the UK's like some kind of evil overlord? Didn't it take a whole bunch of countries and say we're running all of this
Well,
stuff
there was
now?
a British Empire, but it's not like that anymore.
Then the one
Like
country
they ran
left.
a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like I didn't know. I don't know anything about.
Because people will say the UK when they're talking about England, and they'll also say England when they're talking about England. But there's like Wales and Northern Ireland. One of the islands is its own country, and then the other one is in.
There's 2 Irelands.
I think there's an Ireland and a Northern Ireland. If there's not, then we're just going to sound really dumb.
Yeah, but none of these people know what we're talking about. They're not going to look it up.
So this is the kind
And here's the thing: if we say something stupid and someone comments, "You guys are retarded," it's like this, then I got to comment.
Oh, let's make up something. This is but reading the book about the Balkans that's the kind of stuff that like gets me really excited in life. So,
Yeah, it's like it's good to understand. I don't know if it's good to. It's just interesting.
It's not useful
like,
in my life at all.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting. Like how did all this stuff occur? Well, it is useful because you can. Well, you're one person, but you can make sure not to think the ways that people thought that led to that shit.
It's also kind of like people are pretty similar. It's like people are pretty similar everywhere, even while they're different everywhere.
Yeah, their motivations.
Well, it's like you can read a book. This is very interesting to me too. You can read a book that's written in another language but translated into England. It's not like the culture is so different that you can't understand anything in the book, right? People still have thoughts and feelings the way we do, even if they grew up in a different culture. And then I like to read books. If I read fiction, it's usually a foreign author, and then you learn about that culture when you're reading the book, and like certain little things will come through, like they'll use a foreign word here and there for something that is like a concept in their culture that isn't as easy to explain in English, so you just kind of start associating that word. Like, I don't know. I like it when they keep some of the foreign words in there, and you kind of absorb them in the context of the story, and then you can kind of understand something a little.
Without being like super exact and black and white, you're just like that word kind of reminds me of this idea.
But reading, like, the more traditional classics, like from Europe, like a book, like a German book from like an old German book, or like I can't think of things on the spot. I
Yeah.
actually do know
Do
books
you
that I
like
read.
have?
But that stuff, like, it feels so normal and Western. Like it's not that hard to understand a story happening in Germany last century or something.
Even like these, what do you want? Primal areas like in Africa. I know a lot of it's cities and stuff. And Africa's like a million countries and it's giant.
Well,
But these things I hear about of these like tribalistic cultures, they still have similar
uh,
motivations and stuff. And
yeah, I would
aren't
love
there?
to.
Isn't there like a? Aren't there some still remaining to this day that have never seen anything outside of their little.
I don't know.
Someone was talking about that and said they flew over them with a camera and they had never seen any civilization ever because they were trying to record these people.
That's crazy.
Scared them, and I'm like, leave them alone. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about. Like, I would love to read fiction from tribal cultures, but often you're gonna read the most. Not that people in tribal cultures aren't smart. That's not what I mean at all. But like, the people who rise up in a literary sense are generally more educated people. Like, I would love. I don't know how to find those like ordinary people who write stories in their cultures. Because even in the U.S., like if you're reading, a lot of books are written by people who are college professors or they have a master's in fine arts or something.
and if they're famous, they hire someone that has a master or whatever
Yeah,
to write it
they
for
hire
them.
a ghostwriter, which is fine because you're not a writer and you want to get your story out. But it's an interesting thing because then a lot of fiction you'll read that's a little more literary will be written by such educated people, and it'll be like a story about a college professor or something, and it's like, what about?
I hate that.
I want
Like,
to read the more.
there's so many movies about people that make movies,
Yeah.
and it's like that's so unrelevant. And then like the comedians always talk about airplanes. It's like I know you guys fly in airplanes all the time, but it's getting old. Every one of you motherfuckers has an airplane joke.
And it's not that I don't enjoy it because I am one of those college educated people who likes to read stuff written by college educated people.
Drinking your IPAs.
I don't drink IPAs. I'm trying to learn because they do all drink IPAs.
I bet.
Like the
It's a thing.
hoppier and grosser the better.
They're disgusting.
Yeah.
And then they see like someone cracking open a Bush beer, and they look at him
yeah.
like some kind of peasant.
They would never drink. They would
Like
never
that
drink
guy has no class. Yeah, but at least he's not drinking nasty tasting beer.
But I would like to be able to get out of that bubble a bit, even though I actually really enjoy that kind of stuff.
Well, there's like different types of people. I like talking to you because I know like you just spouted off so much information that I've never even heard and feel kind of dumb about because it's not that
But it's
like I don't know anything about the world around. Like when you say Europe, I think of England. It's like France and Europe. I think of those two.
Italy, Germany, Czech Republic.
Italy, I don't think of as a
Slovakia.
European country. I don't know why. I just think about The Godfather and pasta. It doesn't register that.
You probably also don't, as a hobby, spend a lot of time looking at Google Maps and just like looking at different places.
No.
Like
no.
that's like exciting to me. I like doing it.
And you've been to so many countries. Do you go to like hiking ever, or are you usually in the city? Because you're landing at an airport, you're in the city.
John doesn't like hiking really, so.
But so you don't. Because when I think
We
of
don't
another
really do stuff
country,
like
I'm
that.
like, there's got to be cool scenery in
Yeah,
some of these. You're just like,
we've
fuck
been
it.
mostly city people when we travel. I would be interested in doing other stuff, but
Probably take a lot of planning.
yeah, well, John's not really an outdoorsy kind of guy.
Did he get poisoned?
No, he doesn't. I don't.
He's like impervious to any kind of.
Well, he doesn't get poison ivy, but I don't get mosquito bites. So
My legs are so bad. I woke up and I was like, oh my God, this itches and hurts because when I was at work, I was just scratching it. I'm like, typically I don't get it that bad.
I have some there.
I
And I
got
have some on this side too.
my whole leg is like lump. I don't know if you can see it or want to see it on there, but my
I'm
whole
getting
leg
like
is.
I can feel spots coming up in different areas, and I'm just like, don't touch.
Oh,
them.
and one came here, and I'm like, all right, you gotta start being careful.
Yeah, I'm like, I stopped as the more started popping up. I stopped. I'm like, I'm not scratching anything. I'm just.
Because if you don't get it that bad, and people are like, don't scratch it, it's like, relax, buddy. It's not that big a deal. But I scratched this, and it starts spreading. It's like bubbling up and swollen and going everywhere. And then this part on my arm hit, and I'm like, we gotta stop the scratching. And then I'm like, what if I scratch my eye? Because I do that all the time. I like mess with my eye as like a nervous twitch. So I'm like, I'm washing my hands constantly and trying not to touch my eye because I'm starting to get worried. This is a lot of poison. It'll go away.
So I have to stop myself a lot of times from like being with friends and like trying going this great book I just read.
Are they all? Are they all like
stuff?
this again?
No, it's like you have those certain friends who are into similar things. If you have a friend who's not into similar things.
Yeah, it's like me going to church and then I had this funky charms weed, man. You guys never.
That would be the wrong.
That's like what you're talking about.
That would be the wrong.
Funky
audience.
charms, man. Yeah. Yep, the wrong audience. Yeah, because I don't know. I like to hear it though about books, but I really don't know what you're talking. But I do read books that are intellectual, but I read so slowly that it takes me for. A book is a huge event. It's gonna span across the time of multiple months and stuff. And you've told me on some occasions that you can read a whole book in a day.
Well, I can read a short book.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of book, but
not like a little short book.
all right, but if it's like a big, like a good sized book, like 12 Rules, how long would that take?
I don't know, but I've read probably close to 50 books so far this year.
Okay, it's like a week.
But it's like my biggest hobby. Like
wait, this year isn't even like halfway, so you can read 2 books a week.
It's more than halfway. Yeah, I can do that, or I'll read a long book for a few. I'm always reading more than one book at a time too. So like I have to fall asleep reading a book because sleep issues. We don't sleep well.
Yeah, we genetically have like crazy warped brains that can't shut off ever.
Yeah, and that really wake up for me. I mean, I'm like 6 p.m. on. I'm like, this is my time to shine. I'm like totally awake and more energetic.
And I just keep going and going and going in my head.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been getting better at being a little bit more in the moment instead of just like
I've been working on that.
Spinning and spinning and spinning.
I've been working on that for like the last 8 years. Like being present and.
It's not easy for some people. Just do it.
One of the big things I learned is to just focus on actual objects around you, and like when I went through a period where I had a lot of anxiety, I would do this thing where you think of like 5 things I can see, and then you like count 5 things you can see, 5 things I can hear. You do all your senses. Taste. You can't really taste that much at once.
Yeah, I try to do that.
And it like brings you into the present, into the actual physical world. And so I've taken that also to where, like, if I get anxious, and maybe I'll just like look at the stuff around me, like look at that couch and notice things about it, and then kind of takes you out of your head.
And then you're like, damn, I need to clean the house a little bit.
Yeah.
When you start doing that, and that's why you, because I call it ruminating thoughts, but it's like, well, one technique I've used is I think a lot of it is you're trying to make sense of something. and I just say there's nothing to be made sense of because
Mhm.
it just exists. The life I had is just the life I had, and that's what it was, and it couldn't have been anything else because that's what it was. And then I'm doing it right now with the ruminating, like I'm trying to rationalize. But that's like the point is, I'm starting to realize there's nothing to be rationalized. You know, if you did something, it's like maybe you did something that you could have done better or whatever, but you don't have to sit there and
Yeah,
think about it. I think that's a lot of what's happening.
I have a ruminator too.
And a lot of it is just I've thought like that my whole life. It's hard to stop it. Getting
Yeah.
stuck in my head like that.
Oh, and you talk to yourself too, right?
I talk to myself.
I talk to myself out loud constantly, and if it's not
I'll
out
do it.
loud, it's in my head.
I'll do it in my head, and it's on. I get kind of worried when I realize it's like two. It's like there's two personalities going at it with each other.
Yeah, no,
The
I have.
the
I
ones
have,
the
like,
one of me's like I want to do this, and the other one's like, well, you know, maybe it'd be better to. Oh, and it's not even the two parts aren't even all the time relevant. It's just like something happened. They're both just. I feel weird even discussing it. It's hard to
well,
explain.
I
There's
don't.
people that have that
I've
going
tried to
on.
explain to this. I'm speaking to the audience now. I've tried to explain this for years. Like, I'd ask people, "Do you do this?" Like, I'm actually talking like I'm talking to another person, but I do it constantly. It never shuts off. It's really hard to shut it off, and the reason I like exercise so much is because it'll shut off when I'm in a CrossFit class or when I'm playing a soccer game, and I don't have to put in the effort to shut it off. It'll just shut off. But I can't. It's really hard to keep that off on my own. I'm always talking to myself, but sometimes I'm having conversations with other people in my head. Sometimes they're specific people. Sometimes I'm just explaining something in general to the world, I guess.
Yeah, it's very weird. I'll go over.
But I was wondering this.
I'll pretend to be talking to a specific
Yeah,
person I know,
I do
and
that.
and in my head I'm like, and then I could explain it to him like
Yep.
that, and then what if that blah, 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 and then I never even talk. I
And
don't know. It's just
part of me wonders
it's
if
bizarre.
I wonder how it started, and part of me wonders I wonder if this started because I was such a shy person when I was young. Maybe I was kind of rehearsing in my head things I would say, but I don't really
It's
understand how
possible
it
because I
started.
was too, but it's I would say it's genetic
Well,
because very few people
I've been
can
asking
say they
people
have the
about
exact
this.
same issue that we just described.
I've been asking people about this for years, and at some point, I think I mentioned it to you, or you said something, and I was like, I do the same thing. I was like, why have I never asked my brother if he does this? And there was
Yeah,
a
I
point
mean,
where we realized we both kind of do the same crazy stuff, even though we're very different people.
yeah, we just kind of like we both have this kind of weird neurosis. It's neurotic, and but we both deal with it in different ways, and
I exercise.
it like projects us in different
I
directions. So we're
exercise.
different people
I
because of how
exercise.
we're
What do you
reacting
do?
to things. You know, that's how a lot of people react to things in a ridiculous way. I mean, it's crazy the more because I love psychology, and I realize when you're little, you form these ideas that might be complete horse shit, and you can't really get away from them because you're forming everything when you're little. So
Well,
as you grow up, you don't realize like you could be running off of any ridiculous idea that you wouldn't even understand or know.
but when you become more self-aware and you analyze, or just being aware of the fact that I'm always in my head can help me get out into the real world. And yeah, sometimes there isn't a thought or an answer to something. There's just go for a run. And like literally after it, I feel happy, or I'll just feel completely different, and it's like nothing changed with the thing I was thinking about. I just suddenly have a better mood.
The thing, yeah, a lot of it is I think you're trying to come up with a specific uh, interpretation of something that happened or is going to happen, or you're trying to rationalize your actions or your thoughts, and there isn't anything to figure out. You just do stuff. I mean, I'm being a little simplistic. Now I hear the cat doing some
Yeah,
weird
she's
thing
over
in the
there.
kitchen.
So I have to go soon, like now.
Oh, so guys, there's like a family thing involved in whatever, and this is my sister from Phoenix, Arizona. She flew down here to be on the show, and now she has to fly back real quick. She took a detour.
Or to visit family.
There's that. I like to say the show. So this is my sister, and we are very similar people. This is like my favorite person.
Aww.
So this was a good one. I didn't think that you would want to do this because you're a little bit introverted, but there's really no one fucking here.
Yeah, well, as you
I always tell people like we don't even have to post it. Like I'm gonna post it.
Yeah.
But
well, like I'm sure you can all see, I'm not the most dynamic speaker.
Yeah, but I haven't had anyone on this show yet explain to me Bosnia, and like, I know interesting people, but I don't know anyone that's educated in geography.
But I get so into some kind of boring, detailed, meticulous topic, and then I will start talking about it too much.
That's what a podcast is for.
I guess so. So next time we can do like a whole episode about linguistics.
Yeah. Like I tell people when one of my guests starts saying horribly offensive shit, I say, if you don't like it, fucking don't watch it. So if you're talking about stuff, about countries and stuff, and people are like, oh, don't fucking watch it. You don't deserve to know about Bosnia.
I was going to say, this could be a child-friendly episode, but not now. You keep saying fuck.
Oh, that's how I talk. Children can watch it. They've heard that word. They'll get over it.
Okay, I have to go.
All right, guys. Cara Patterson episode.